Well, here we are in Mason City, Iowa, and we're on the campaign trail. This is, by the way, the home of Meredith Willson. She's not right here, but not far down the block. It's the home of Meredith Willson, who wrote the songs for and was the playwright for Music Man. And this has really made the whole thing on his basis of his reflections of this town. And well, when you go through it, you can really see this is Americana in every single way. This is an arts festival that's going on right now here in Mason. So as we were going through, I just wanted to first of all thank California Yankee for asking some interesting questions on redstate.com, and we're going to start to answer some of those here. We'll do it as we kind of meander through here. First of all, he asked about how I can be taken seriously if I can't break 1% now in national praise, and David Yepsen, who is a very famous or infamous writer out here in the Iowa newspaper. He writes a lot about politics. He says that it seems to him like I'm trying to make a statement more than I am actually trying to run for president. Well, first of all, with regard to the 1%, yeah, we don't have $25 million. It's going to take a lot of time and effort in a place like Iowa in order to get past that 1%. If I can do well enough in the straw poll and in the caucuses in this state, that propels you to a different level. And I don't have to have $20 million in the bank in order to do well in this state. I have to be here. I have to convince these folks that, in fact, I have a message that's worth hearing and they all agree to. And as for running for office or making a statement, well, really, isn't that what everyone is doing? Isn't that what happens when you run for office, especially president? Now, some people are trying to make a statement that is, look, I want to be president of the United States. That's the statement, and I'm going to run as hard as I can to get there. Well, I have a different statement that I want to make, and that is, of course, that I want to have these borders secured. I want to deal with the issue of illegal immigration. Yeah, it's a big issue in my campaign, that's true. But I see nothing wrong with that. At least I have an issue. Let's think about that one. It happens to be one that touches about, I don't know, 50 or 60 aspects of our society. So believe me, having an issue is not the worst thing in the world when you're running for president of the United States. I'm glad I have it. And I'm glad, because that is actually what I need to vote that motivates me. People need other things. You know, some people are motivated simply because of the office. They want to be whatever it is. And in this case, president of the United States. And that's what motivates them. Gives them the juice to go out and work as hard as they do. Well, that's really not my motivation. Being president of the United States is what I have to be in order to accomplish certain goals. It's okay, no problem, no problem. And those goals are the ones I've tried to lay out. And so yeah, I do want to make a statement. I hope I can make it clearly. Secure these borders, enforce the laws on immigration, and then a lot of other things will fall into place. The next question that is posed by California Yankee is essentially, what's my plan B in Iraq? He said that since I am opposed to the surge, or was opposed to the surge, what are my plans for a victory in Iraq? Well, number one, don't forget we have won several victories in Iraq. The fact that we have toppled a dictator is a victory. The fact that we have allowed for a constitution to be written, free elections to be held, a country to be created that is now recognized by 50-some other nations around the world. There is a government. We've stood up 120,000 Iraqi troops and national police. They are ready. When I say stood up, they are ready. So we have won many victories. That's the important thing. I think people have a tendency to just slough off. Well, yeah, we did that, but now what? Well, yeah, now it's a tough situation, and we have bungled. There's no two ways about it. We've bungled the subsequent events after the initial victories that we won in Iraq. So here's what we need to do. Well, first of all, I hope the surge works because we're there. He's done it. The president has committed troops, and so whether I thought it was a good idea or not is irrelevant. We're going to do everything we can. I will, as a congressman, to try to make sure that it does work, and we'll give the troops everything that they ask for that's needed in order for them to accomplish their goal. But I still believe that we can never be a constabulary force in Iraq, a police force.
I don't think that that's the proper role, and I believe it puts us in the crosshairs and does not help us in the overall battle against radical Islam. So I believe that we need to be in the area. That's why I say my approach to this would be disengagement. That is to say, stop being the major force in Iraq, the major military force confronting the insurgents. Turn that job over to the Iraqi military. But we cannot withdraw from Iraq. We will probably be in positions, we should be in positions along the border, maybe even the airport, but certainly in and around the region, in Qatar, in Kuwait, in Saudi Arabia. And we have to be there because we need to deal with the development of al-Qaeda cells in and around that particular region, and also to help stabilize the government. That's true. But victory in Iraq has got to be thought of in terms of a much larger war.
Okay, now let's talk about the third question that California Yankee posed to us, and that is, he said, what are my 5 top priorities if I were the President of the United States, and how would I go about accomplishing them? Well, first of all, of course, one of the priorities would be to secure the nation's borders. Next, of course, we will actually as part of that, what we will do is to start enforcing the laws inside the United States. And I will tell the Secretary of Homeland Security that his primary responsibility is to protect this nation, and that means to go after people who are here illegally, especially criminal aliens who are here. Certainly, another priority would be pursuing the war against radical Islam, and I've already talked about that, what we need to do. And economic vibrancy. We will have to do a lot in order to make sure that the economy of the United States stays strong and it continues to grow. One thing we can do in that area, and that I would certainly do, is to push for a complete overhaul of our tax code. And what I mean by that is this: not just tinker with what we've got, but actually change the entire tax code. Go to a consumption tax. Throw out the graduated income tax. We would have to repeal the 16th Amendment. That is true, because if we didn't, we'd end up with 2 taxes, a consumption tax and an income tax. So repeal the 16th Amendment, impose a consumption tax, and you will see an economic explosion in this country. Then, of course, there's energy independence. Now, the whole idea of energy independence, we have to understand that there's no silver bullet to this, but there are a lot of, if you will, silver BBs. Okay? Now, what I mean by that is, of course, employing all kinds of technologies, especially nuclear energy. We have the problem with storage, but that is actually being dealt with. There are places other than Yucca Mountain where we can begin to store the waste from nuclear power plants. But nuclear energy is one of the most important, I think, measures that we can take, one of the most important technologies that we can develop and use to gain energy independence. Of course, all of the other things that we know are the case. I mean, biofuels, renewable fuels of all kinds, air, water.